What's up, everybody? As much as I talk about Oblivion being like my favorite game amongst my favorite games ever, and as much as I love doing build videos, it's about time I did, well, a build video for Oblivion, right? Especially considering this game has one of the most unique character creation systems I've seen in any game ever. It's completely unique. There's really not another RPG like it. Essentially what you do is you build your in-game character at the very beginning. The decisions you make here will impact whether your character is going to suck or be really strong mid to late game. Now, I've seen a lot of bad advice out there on the internet concerning this game, and so I'd like to clear up some of those things. So what we'll do is we'll go step by step through the character creation process, which is basically part of the tutorial section here in the game, and we'll talk about some of these things and some major do's and don'ts to keep in mind when making your character. Now, once you decide what your character is going to look like here in your jail cell, you make your first major decision, which is your starting race. This is going to have a major impact on how your character turns out because it really decides your starting attributes, as well as some, certain racial bonuses and sometimes even penalties. Now, here's the first do or say don't of the game. Regardless of what difficulty you're going to be playing on, keep this in mind. Do not ever start with a race that is geared towards what you want to do in the game. I know this is counterintuitive, but bear with me. If you want to play a mage, do not start with a magic-based character like, in this case, what I'm playing here, a Breton, or an Altmer, or say a Dark Elf. Whereas if you want to play a mage, don't ever start with one of these. Start with a warrior-based character like a Nord or an Orc. All right? There's a reason for that. It'll become clear as we go along here. But just keep in mind is whatever you plan on doing, start with the opposite race that is weak in that particular skill set. All right, this should hopefully make sense later. But that is the first don't. Don't ever go with a race that is strong in what you want to do. It was similar in Skyrim also, in order to make a stronger character for late game. Although in Skyrim, you could level indefinitely, so it wasn't quite as relevant. And here, it's absolutely crucial. So while you're down here fighting rats, going through the rat and goblin gauntlet, you get the opportunity to assign some of your actions to your controller, and even quick slot some of your favorite items, and then you're going to meet with the Emperor again. This is your next step.
Cycles of the heavens. The skies are marked with numberless sparks, each a fire, and every one a sign. I know these stars well, and I wonder which sign marked your birth.
Now, assuming you've started with a race that is essentially the opposite of whatever class you actually want to be, here's where you get to make up for some of your weaknesses. For example, starting with a Breton, I believe my strength and my endurance are down at 30, whereas my willpower and my intelligence are up in the 50 range. All right, so my skills are going to play into that later, but remember, Oblivion is focused on attributes. That's what you actually level up when you level. Your skills take care of themselves. So you don't put really points into skills. Those do that on their own. What you're worried about is maximizing your attributes each time you level. We'll talk about how to do that. But here, seeing as I start low in strength and low in endurance, for my Breton, I would want the warrior. Now, if I was, say, playing an Orc or a Nord, where my intelligence and perhaps, I don't know, maybe my agility and willpower or something like that is really, really low, then I would probably go with, say, the Lady. Or I might want to buff my Magicka, so I might go with a permanent Magicka buff, like, the Mage or something. The Apprentice or something, whatever, the Atronach. Although I wouldn't recommend Atronach for max difficulty because you can't regenerate Magicka, and that can be brutal early game.
The Prince of Destruction and his mortal servants. He must not have the Amulet of Kings. Take the amulet, give it to Joffrey. He alone knows where to find my last son. Find him and close shut the jaws of Oblivion.
Just some quick advice here after this main story point is reached, that you might want to let Boris deal with that assassin there, because if you notice here, he can basically 2 or 3 shot you. Pretty nasty. Anyway, and this is where we come to basically our final stage. This is where you define your actual class. And here's another major don't. Don't ever, ever, ever go with a preset class. Always design your own. Always.
From what I've seen of you, I'm guessing you're an experienced warrior. Am I right?
Okay, well, you're sort of right, Boris, but we're going to go ahead and define that a little bit. So you notice the X button here. I guess on the PlayStation, it would be, what would it be, your square button? You get the opportunity to create a custom class. There is not a single preset class that is optimal for a strong character late game. There's not a single one. Now, first, your specialization. Notice that your specialized skills get plus 10. So you might intuitively think, well, if I'm going to play a combat-based character, a melee character, I would go with combat. No, always go the opposite. Go with magic. You're already strong in magic. You don't need that many skill points to level your magic-based attributes. So if you are already a magic-based race, go with magic also so that your magic can increase even faster, and leave as many skill points available for combat-based abilities as you can. Now, if you were going with a combat-based race, then you would take combat skills if you're trying to be a mage. You get it? And now here is the absolute most important thing. Never, ever, ever pick major skills that you're going to use. You're going to use them to level, but these are not things that you use in your regular gameplay. In other words, first, if I'm going to play a warrior or a melee-based character, I need to decide what weapon I'm going to go with. I personally think I'm going to run with a battle axe late game, which is a blunt weapon. It's considered blunt, all right? And so I'm going to take blade, and I'm even going to take hand-to-hand as major skills, because I'm not going to be using them until I choose to. Remember, your major skills are what level you, and you only need to raise your major skills a total of 10 times to actually level. Your minor skills, you can increase those as much as you want. And then when you actually level, the cumulative times your skills have raised dictate how many points you can put into an attribute. I'm trying to make this as simple as possible, but this is the prime mechanic upon which your Oblivion character is based, is that you have 3 skills that are linked to an attribute. If you raise those skills a total of 10 times, doesn't matter whether it's blade, blunt, or hand-to-hand, any combination thereof, 10 points between those 3 skills will raise your strength by 5 when you level. Now, if you only raise your strength-based skills a total of 9 times, then when you level, you can only put 4 points into strength. Also, keep in mind that endurance, which is crucial for any character, especially on higher difficulties, you want to put endurance in as early as possible so that you can dump 5 points into endurance every single time you level early game. That will pay huge dividends for you later. You're going to have a much, much stronger character by the time you're level 10 or 15 than what you're normally used to. So notice you get to even custom name your class.
Really? I would never have guessed. Still, I don't think you'll have any trouble.
So anyway, he sends you back off into the sewers to go fight more rats and goblins and stuff. And what you can do is here you can take a peek at your starting attributes and even some of your starting skills. Okay, notice my health is really, really low being Breton. So we're going to start dumping into endurance early, and then as we level, as we go along, our health is going to jump up by leaps and bounds. We already have a decent magical pool starting with a Breton. You get a bonus of 50 points. That's a racial passive. It's really nice. All right, notice my strength's already 45, so it's almost caught up to my starting willpower being a magic-based character. You see? And then I'm going to be dumping into strength and endurance as much as I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to train in strength-based skills, right? And then once I've got my strength skills up to, the 8 to 10 range or whatever, and I've got my endurance skills, which would be block, heavy armor, and armorer, okay? Notice I didn't make any of those major skills. Those are all minor skills, so I can work on those things without actually leveling. And then when I'm done, when I've trained 10 times in each of those attribute-based skills, then I can go train in something that I don't use. So notice, when I picked my major skills, a lot of them had to do with like personality, which is an irrelevant stat. And speed will take care of itself, right? And agility is going to happen because sneak is going to raise your agility really quick. And if you do any archery, that's going to raise your agility also. All right, so what I'll do is I'll train in my minor skills until I'm sure that I'll be able to dump 5 points into endurance and strength and then a third whatever each time I level. Endurance and strength are my primaries. Willpower is good because it makes your stamina regenerate a lot faster. Okay, so that's good to have too. And power. So I think it even deals with mana regeneration also. Anyway, so notice I didn't dump a lot of extra points. Notice all the points I have to work with armor. That's 95 points. If I were to train an armorer 10 times every time I leveled, right, without having to actually level doing it, I could dump 5 points into endurance 9 different times just off armor by itself. That's why I kept my combat skills low. If I'm going to be a warrior-based character, then I need to keep my combat skills low to start with. I need as many points to work with as possible. My magic's already high. I don't need near as many skill points to dump into willpower and intelligence because it's already up there. I started with a magic-based character so that I could be a warrior. You get it? So that's how it goes. Counterintuitive. Do just the opposite. If you want to be a warrior, start as a mage, essentially, and then pick the opposite skills as you go. Anyway, I hope that cleared some things up. That's the best advice I can give you on creating a really, really strong character. By the time you're just level 10 or 15, your character's going to be really stout, and you'll find that even max difficulty is survivable. So with that in mind, I guess I'm going to leave you guys, and we're going to actually get to a playthrough of this. It's been about time. Appreciate you watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one. If you want to catch any of the character build stuff or even the Oblivion playthrough, you can click that image in the middle. It should send you straight to the playlist. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.